Hello, I'm Carol Bowser, President of Conflict Management Strategies. I love helping people and organizations avoid the sucking vortex of pissed off and become more conflict competent. And I also love sharing knowledge. And I love talking about this stuff with people. So I wanted to spread the gospel of managing conflict and empowering people and do that out here so that way more people get an opportunity for tools, frameworks that they can go ahead and use at work and at home. Because conflict resolution skills are the skills that nobody taught you, everybody expects you to know. And if you use them consistently, deliberately, and obviously, it's a superpower. But I'm not the center of all knowledge in conflict resolution. In fact, I've got a kind of tribe of people that I talk with regularly, the people that I learn from, the people that inspire me. And I wanted to bring some of those people together for you. So that way you can get a few tips, tools, techniques, and maybe insights that you can put to use in your life and at work. And one of the people that came first to my mind is my dear friend and colleague, Jeanette Nyden. And Jeanette, we always say that I learned how to negotiate from her, and she learned how to mediate from me. And so I love mediation, but mediation and negotiation are kind of similar, but kind of different. When I mediate with people, I'm kind of neutral as to what the outcome is. I'm interested in helping people, and I help them with a structure, with a process, with maybe tips, tools, techniques to help them better advocate for themselves to try to reach a resolution. Well, mediation and lawyers advocate, but in a slightly different way. So, Jeanette, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we can talk a little bit about how negotiation and mediation and all of those terms that we use, how they are helpful or sometimes how they get in the way. But who the heck are you? What do you
Yeah,
do?
who am I? Yeah. So I am Jeanette Nyden on negotiation, and I help non-lawyers negotiate complex contracts with accuracy, nuance, and confidence so that they, the non-lawyers, can reach agreements that are fair, balanced, and risk-free on behalf of their organizations. And we have a long history. We have 20 years together as professional colleagues and as personal friends and women business owners. And so a lot of our work does overlap, and yet people don't really understand how much of the mediation skills I teach my people who are negotiating, and then how much of the negotiation skills you incorporate as part of your mediation techniques.
Exactly. I thought it would be kind of interesting for us to be able to talk about the power and also the disempowerment of language. Because I think you and I both talk about, is it mediation? Is it negotiation? Is it coaching? Is it facilitation? Is it collaboration? Is it problem solving? And I think language limits us, that we kind of put things in a bucket and we fail to see that there are kind of universal skills involved in all of those things. How do you how do you see that in your negotiation work?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true that we do use those buckets, especially when you're talking within companies that have any sort of legal team. You know, a negotiation means one thing, and mediation means something else. You're now in an official dispute, and the lawyers have gotten involved, etc. And that's not what you do, and that's not what I do. So for me, it's about a back and forth communication aimed at reaching an agreement. It's just really simple. And I start all of my conversations with my clients, all training programs with, this is simply a back and forth conversation aimed at reaching an agreement. So it could be when you're facilitating, when you're mediating, when you're negotiating, when you're talking with the stakeholder, it could be any number of kinds of conversations.
One thing that I have poached from you with your permission, and I think it was from your first book. Um, I know that there was someone special
Negotiation
identified.
rules.
Yes. That's someone that a good friend was identified in the credits for that. But I feel this.
Yeah, that was you.
It was me. And I steal this all the time when I do training, or even when I'm do coaching, or I'm helping HR folks or managers, or being called in to like deal with, the bad juju stuff. And I stole this specifically from you, and it kind of talks about interests and issues and needs. But at the very top, I'll talk about just because you're all working at the same place, just because you're in the same department, just because you have the same manager, or you have the same values, some of your needs are going to be the same. Some of them are going to be different, and some of them are going to be competing, and that's okay. So I really love how you framed that up of identifying and acknowledging some are the same, some are different, and some are competing, because I don't think people think about that at all. They just think about that I find you a pain in the ass. You're an impediment to me or us getting what I want.
Yeah, no, it's really true. And we often focus on those competing interests to the detriment of all the interests that we have that are shared. And that's where we dig our heels in and we become positional. And my attitude is interests are a currency that can be traded. And if we can start talking about them as different forms of currency that have different weighted, some things are $1, some things are $5, some things might be $100, we can start trading them back and forth. We don't have to feel like we've given up our values in these back and forth conversations in order to try to get our needs met or to meet someone else's needs. We're simply trading interests back and forth until we get to a mutual agreement.
Yeah, and this goes back to that I taught you how to negotiate. No, I taught you how to mediate. You taught me how to negotiate. Now, see, even I merge them together because I think of them as kind of formats and all different ways to have discussions about what people need and how they maybe see their needs blocked. And I always go back to that. And one of the things that I think is really powerful about you and I in the model of mediation, because there are many, many models of mediation. And as a side note, you and I both know you talk about mediators and even negotiators, and people get into very deeply entrenched positional arguments of what is the correct way to do it. But we also at the training that we did was, what are people's needs? What are their interests, and kind of what are their values? And I think also what was different about what we do, we recognize that it's a high likelihood that there is an ongoing relationship, because we know that like how people feel treated, how the decision is made during the decision-making process, people will remember, and people will hold grudges and things.
Yeah, so this is a true story. So I was at the King County Dispute Resolution Center. So when I was learning to mediate, I was both at the King County and the Pierce County, and that's you and I worked at the Pierce County Center for Dispute Resolution. So when I was at King County, I did this, advanced interest workshop to get ready to do more advanced types of mediations. And the instructor was talking to us about different interests and things that we hold really dear. And she talked about autonomy. And I put autonomy at the top of my list. And this woman who is also a lawyer, who came out of a big firm life, just sort of did a head snap. And she's like, autonomy. And she had a very negative reaction towards me wanting autonomy as one of my top needs, period. I mean, this is a foundational need, whether I'm a parent, I'm a partner, whether it's in my business partnership, I am autonomous. And I looked at her and I said, well, that's why I left the firm and started my own practice, my own business. And I think it's that sense of being offended because someone's number one need or interest isn't your number one need or interest, is somehow like looked down upon. Like, how could you possibly think autonomy? Well, yeah, if you're at one of the nation's top 5 largest law firms, there is no such thing as autonomy until you're probably in your 70s, you know? But if you're a woman business owner and you're starting up your own company, then that's all you are, is an autonomous free agent to go out and capture business. And I think about that a lot in the negotiation trainings that I do between customers and suppliers, where customers automatically demonize the supplier. They're always wrong and can never see their own fault in performance failures, but also in suppliers and how they treat customers as just piggy banks. Like, I'll just do a change order and get more money from them. And that is kind of setting up that adversarial relationship, then also takes into account that their interests are not totally aligned, and then they automatically see the other person as the enemy.